Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. Today we have Hope Hooton here with us, all the way from Michigan.
Yay.
Did you guys drive?
Yes, we drove.
Okay. What was that, about 8
8
hours?
hours, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me, is there room for me to cry? Is the devil all inside my mind? I don't wanna die like this, I wanna live my life.
All right, Hope. This is heavy,
Yeah.
and I want you to start wherever you're comfortable. Maybe even let's talk about the kids.
I'll tell you about who Alec and Lydia were first, and then we'll go into what happened to them.
Okay.
So Alec was my 7-year-old son. His name is Alec Agape Mater, born July 15th, 2016. And he loved Pokemon. His favorite Pokemon was Pikachu. And you can see my tattoo that I have.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I have
with
a
the unicorn.
memorial tattoo. So
Oh.
a unicorn is Lydia, so I'll get to that. And then the Pikachu is Alex. And the stars, I'll get to that as well.
Oh.
So Alec loved Pokemon and Pikachu. He loved to ride his scooter, loved to play basketball and soccer, and he loved to swim. And our faith was very important to myself and our family. And so the kids loved to sing and worship Jesus and go to church. They loved going and being a part of the church ministry at our local church. And so that was a huge part of our lives. And my daughter, Lydia, was 6. Her name is Lydia Alyssa Mater, born May 14th, 2018. And she loved unicorns, sparkles, pink and purple. And she was her big brother's shadow. So everything that Alec did, she wanted to do. And so I have a distinct memory that when they would go to the church every summer, they would have a kids camp at the church where the kids would go all week and participate in activities and different things. And on that following Friday, we would come together as a church and all the parents would come and they would give awards out and like all of that kind of stuff for the week. And they would have these huge water slides and like bubble machines and all kinds of games, a petting zoo, all of this stuff. And I remember distinctly, even at 2 years old, Lydia loved to go down the huge, like these were massive inflatable water slides, inflatable slides. And she would take Alec's hand and they would walk up the water slide and the slide together. And then they would both go down at the same time. And she was
no
2.
fear.
No fear. As long as she was by her big brother, Alex, she had no fear. They were super tight as siblings. I often found her playing in his bedroom with his toys instead of her own. They both loved the magnet tiles that stick together.
Oh, yeah.
And so they would build these beautiful, elaborate creations with magnet tiles. And so they love to play together. So I guess starting my story, I met their father in college at university in Michigan. We met on the college campus at a church organization called InterVarsity. We had the same morals and values, and we had a lot of things in common. We were friends for several months to a year before we started dating. And I felt that this was my person. I remember physically hearing God say, he is your person. And so moving forward, and all of these things are going to transpire. That was something that I had to grapple with was, well, I thought that the Holy Spirit told me that this was my person. We dated for several years and got engaged. And then we moved out to Arizona because I got a teaching job as a special education teacher in one of the districts out there. And he had just graduated from college and was searching for jobs as well. And so then we moved out there. And we'd already planned our wedding. So we actually had to fly back to Michigan to get married.
Okay.
So we did that. We got married August 15th, 2015. And everything was good. Everybody asks me, when we were dating, did you see any red flags, or were there any signs that anything like this would transpire? And now, looking back, hindsight is always 2020. There was always coercive control and manipulation, but little at first. And little things that people wouldn't even recognize, mostly as manipulation, meaning like if we went to like a restaurant and he'd be like, okay, where do you want to go? And I'd give him like options. He'd be like, oh, well, I don't want to go there. I want to go here instead. And then I would just agree. But that is manipulation.
Yes.
And then that goes into other facets of life, right? Yeah, we got married, and then we got pregnant with Alec. And like I said, he was born July 15th, 2016. Everything was good, normal life, went to church. We both had jobs, we were doing well. Then we had our daughter, Lydia. And as soon as I got pregnant with Lydia, his demeanor and mood started to shift a little bit. Meaning his behavior became a little erratic. And how I mean by that is he would wake up in the morning and he'd be perfectly fine, normal. I'd go take a shower and I'd come out of the shower and it'd be like I was confronted with a totally different person. And so, I was only in the shower like a half hour. So like the whole change in his behavior.
Was he like confrontational?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yeah, confrontational. He started being verbally abusive, so emotionally abusive, so like calling me names out of the blue. Like he could just be like walking by, like I'd be sitting on the couch and he'd walk through the living room and just he'd call me like curse words, like out of the blue. Like nothing would provoke him. Just he'd do it just to get he thought it was funny, to get a rise out of me.
You're like, who are you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, we had, I would say at the beginning of our relationship, we had tiffs and like, we'd had normal fights, but it was escalating. And I always say in coercive control, the person, me, loses their autonomy. And so I lost my whole sense of being, my whole sense of autonomy. He was slowly stripping that away over time. And so he would use abuse patterns like, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, gaslighting was huge. I started to question my own memories, my own sanity, because he would say, well, I didn't say that. You're crazy. He would say, you're just too emotional, because I would cry and get upset because I would be like, no, like you said this. And then he would gaslight me. And then I would be like, I was the crazy one, even though I wasn't.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. And so
you had a little bit of narcissism in there, huh?
Yes. And we're all right. We all statistically have a little narcissism, but it's like, how much does everybody have, right? And so he had a little bit more, right? He had that grandiosity that he was up here and everybody else was beneath him.
And that was kind of new to you, right?
Yes.
That stuff? Okay.
Yes. All that grandiosity was new. And I started to see that come out with how he would talk about our church friends and how he would talk about certain situations at his work and right at work and stuff. I'm only getting his side of the story. So like he'd say something transpired and he'd have this whole grandiosity. Well, I'm up here, and it was just insane how he would talk about people, and he would only talk about them behind their back. And that's something that's really important moving forward as this transpires, as that starts to shift, as, he started to talk about people behind their back, but he would never talk about people in front of them. Right.
Was he nice to them and friendly?
Them. Yes.
And okay.
Yes, he was very friendly, gainfully employed. Everybody liked him, but
was he charming on the outside? Okay.
Yeah. And then my parents, first of all, my mom passed away in November of 2021 from a car accident. And so after her passing, I had to take care of my father, who was already previously sick with kidney failure from decades of living with type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
So my sister and I had to take care of him from a long distance because she lived in Michigan and I was in Arizona at the time. And so and he was in Florida. And so we were taking care of him from a long distance, meaning like we'd call him over FaceTime and help him cook his meals. And because he was a diabetic, he had one of those glucose monitors that was hooked to him so we could watch it on our phones. And it was it was a lot, right? Because we were grieving our mother and then we were also trying to take care of our father. So I believe that he saw a shift in me because I had to not focus solely on him and the kids. I had to focus on my father. And I was still working at the time and still trying to be a mother. So I took my attention off of him, and that's when he started to spiral. And so when my father passed away just 7 months after my mom, so she passed away November 2021, my dad died July 2022. And so after he passed away, he just came completely unhinged. The abuse became physical, it became sexual, and the cycle was just continuing. Whereas before, the cycle would start and then stop and be calm for, weeks, months, several months. And then now, after their passing, the cycle, there was no pause in between. It was consistent every single day, either, yelling at me, gaslighting, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. And I hit everything. Nobody knew anything. My coworkers, my family, nobody knew anything. He would physically hurt me and punch me in places that no one could see. So he'd punch me here so that I could wear short sleeve shirts and nobody could see my bruises. Yeah. He would punch me here so I could wear shorts and nobody would see my bruises. I think the scariest incident that happened was we were going to bed, and a lot of our arguments and stuff happened at night because the kids weren't around, they were sleeping, and I would want to talk about things, and he didn't, and that would start an argument. And I remember we were arguing, or he was arguing, and I wanted to get away from the situation because I knew that it was going to escalate. So by that time, I could read his emotions, right? The coercive control. You're stabilizing other people's emotions and not your own. And so I left the bedroom, and I was walking across our living room to go down the hallway to go check on the kids, just to get away from him. And also just to make sure like the kids were okay. And I walked across the living room and I got about to the hallway to turn. And all I remember is feeling something really heavy hit the back of my leg. And I didn't know what it was at first. I thought he just threw something at me because he did that a lot. But I didn't know what he threw at me because it was dark and I wasn't facing him. Come to find out, I felt something trickling down my leg, so I knew it was blood. But I didn't, again, know what he hit me with. He hit me with a pocket knife. So he threw the pocket knife, and it must have came unattached, and it stabbed me in my leg right here, and I have stitches. And that was traumatizing because it was like the blood splattering. It didn't hit a vein or it didn't hit like an artery, but it still splatters. I sat down and he had the knife was still in my leg. So he had to like take it out. And it was a pocket knife. So the blade wasn't that big, like that.
Big enough.
Yeah. But it wasn't like, I want to explain to people, like it wasn't a big knife.
Right.
But yeah, so he had to take it out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go to the hospital. I got to go to the urgent care. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. He's like, no, go sit in the bathtub. Like, I'll go to the store and get stuff. And like, so he was like gonna fix me all up. And so I'm in, freeze mode because like my adrenaline's going and like, I'm scared of him because he just threw a knife at me. So obviously I'm going to go and do what he says. So I'm going to go in our bedroom, go to the bathroom, sit in the bathtub. And I remember him telling me, okay, I'm going to go to the store. Don't call the police. Like, just sit here. So he knew, like, if I called the police, he was done with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was too scared to call the police because I was scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
And also, my phone wasn't near me. I don't even know where my phone was. And I couldn't leave that bathtub because there was blood going everywhere. So, like,
So it kept bleeding.
it kept bleeding.
Yeah,
It was continuously bleeding. And I was putting pressure on it, but it was continuously bleeding. And the kids were sleeping. And so I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, if I call the police, like, then they're going to come and what am I going to do with Alec and Lydia? And I don't drive. I'm visually impaired. So then I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to have to get other people involved. So there's a lot of layers, right, to this. It's not just when people say, well, why didn't she just leave? It's not like we can just walk out the door. That's not an option. Like, you are so controlled and so made to feel like nobody else cares and nobody else will help you that
you start to believe it.
You believe it.
Yeah.
100%. And so after he came back and he patched me all up, he got those like sturry strips you can get from the store and put them on and like put the ointment on. And I was like, no, I'm like really like in pain. And he's like, no, you're not going to go to the hospital. He's like, no, you'll be fine. And so I went to bed, and I remember that night I couldn't really sleep because I was in so much pain. And I woke up the next morning, and I was like, I have to go like to urgent care. Like, I don't have to go to the hospital, but I have to go to urgent care. Like, this needs stitches. It's deep enough that it needs stitches. And there was like bruising all around it because of the force of the knife hitting the metal of the pocket knife hitting it. And so he took me. I went in by myself. I got 4 stitches. I remember the doctor asking me, it was a male. I remember him asking me what happened. And I lied. And I said, I was opening up an Amazon package and I cut my leg. Because, again, visually impaired. And I said that. I said, I'm visually impaired. I was opening up an Amazon package and I cut my leg. Believable. And they went with it. They believed me. And I got the stitches and I went home and life went back to normal.
Did he ask you what you said to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I stuck with that story. Everybody I told, because my friends and stuff after that happened could see the bruise. I mean, it was massive on my leg. They could see the stitches. And I remember telling my friend the same story. I was consistent. I opened an Amazon package, the knife slipped, and I cut my leg.
Yeah.
They believed that story until we separated, until I told them the truth.
How long do you think that was after that incident that you left?
That was the pocket knife incident was my parents were still alive during that incident.
Oh, okay.
So they were, so that was probably another 1.5 to 2 years after I separated.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, but so I stayed. And like I said, after my parents died with the physical abuse and just the gaslighting and the psychological abuse, everything, I got to a point of like, my dad passed in July of 2022. And I remember in February of 2023, I said the first time to a friend, I said, I think I might want to divorce Brock. I didn't say anything else about the physical abuse, any of the abuse. I just said, I think I might want to leave. And that was huge for me to vocalize that to a friend.
What do you think made you do that at that time? Like, there were all these other times you should have been leaving. Like, what, was there something that just clicked or okay.
I think after losing my parents, I had an epiphany of, I don't want to live like this the rest of my life. My mom was 63 when she passed and my dad was 64, and that's relatively young.
So young.
That's young. And so I didn't want to live like that. And so I remember after telling my friend this, I really started to dig deep into, okay, I need to make a plan. How am I going to leave safely? So I started like researching. And then this is when I started watching YouTube videos online, because I started second guessing myself of like, am I really in this bad situation? Because that's what coercive control and abuse does. You second guess everything and you minimize all of the stuff that I've just told you. And I started thinking, well, maybe it won't happen again. Maybe we can continue to move forward. And throughout these abuse cycles, throughout our marriage, we were trying to get counseling. We were trying to do these things, but it never worked. Counseling was just a way of him to nitpick me and what I needed to fix. It was never about a unified front of like, okay, we need to do this together. We need to both work on this and make our relationship stronger, our marriage stronger. It was, okay, how can I nitpick Hope and tear her down and make her believe that it's her fault?
You have to also be willing to tell the whole truth.
Exactly.
Which I'm sure he did not.
No. And I was scared, right? And so I didn't tell the whole truth. There was bits and pieces that I left out because I was scared, because if I was telling my counselor and telling the church pastors that this stuff was happening, I was scared that the police were going to come and arrest him. So there was a lot of scared part on myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was February 2023. And then I ended up leaving August 9th, 2023. And so, or October 9th, I'm sorry. October 9th, 2023.
Okay.
And I remember we'd gotten into an argument and he was gaslighting me like no other. I remember specifically I was sitting on the floor in his office and he had his big monitors on his computer sitting in front of him. And I remember talking to him and he was like, well, if you're going to leave, I'll call the police on you. And then I remember him specifically pulling up the Department of Child Safety website, which is what Arizona calls their CPS. Okay. And he was like, well, I'll call DCS on you and I'll let them know that you were hurting the children. And, he's trying to flip everything on me. He's using the DARVO tactic, which is deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So DARVO. So this is a tactic that abusers use to make you believe and feel like to everyone else that you are the attacker and they are the victim. So he was using that. And
you start to question it.
Oh, 100%.
Yourself, yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe I'm the one that needs all this help. Maybe he is right. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I need to go to more intense counseling. Like he was really like honing in like it was me. But finally, like this light bulb switched on. And about a week before I left him, I remember specifically standing in front of Lydia's dresser, folding her clothes and putting them in her drawers. They were open. I remember this plain as day. I was folding her clothes and I remember thinking, okay, well, I want to leave. But then the next thought was, well, I can't leave. And then the next thought was, which I believe is Holy Spirit, was saying, yes, you can, Hope. You have been taking care of this family of 4 for a year and a half. Because at this point, he had also, after my dad had passed away, he had quit his job. And so I was the sole provider. So on a teacher's salary. So
what made him think it was okay to quit his job? What was his excuse for that?
Because he believed from my parents' passing that we would receive money coming in and that he would live on that. And he believed, and he would tell everyone when he quit his job, he was proud that he would say, I'm retired. And he was in his early to mid 30s, not mid 30s, early 30s at this point. And he would tell everyone, I'm retired, I stay at home, and I help my little girl with preschool because Lydia was in preschool at the time. And instead of paying for preschool, he was like, oh, I'll just teach her preschool. And again, as a part of the abuse tactic, everybody was like, well, why didn't you just say, no, you can't quit your job? There was no saying no. Right. I want your audience to understand there's no saying no. Like there was no option. It was, okay, I know that this isn't right in my head. And I did try to like be like, no, I did say no, but he wouldn't listen.
Right. And that fear is real.
Mhm.
Like that. And I think that that's what a lot of people don't understand who haven't walked in those shoes. It's real. It's not like everybody, oh, you should have just left and I would have done this.
No.
No.
Because you have all of these other things, right? You have them trying to flip the script on you and making you out as the bad guy, right? And which happens a lot in family court, which happens a lot with the police. This happens. And so I didn't want that to happen. And so, yeah, I had that epiphany when I was folding her clothes, and I was like, okay, this is it. And about a week later, I asked for a divorce after sitting on his floor of his office, and he was gaslighting me. I was like, no, I want a divorce. And I left to take a walk and around the block of our neighborhood. And he tried to gaslight me again. And he got the kids all worked up. I remember Alec was in tears because he said that I left permanently, which wasn't the case. Right. I left to go take a walk. Mm-hmm. Mommy didn't leave permanently. So he was, trying to pin the kids against me, right? And make them all upset. I remember walking and calling an attorney's office and talking to the attorney, making that initial appointment. And as I was doing that, he continuously called me over and over again, probably around 7 times. And then I remember the 8th time picking up the phone. And I'm like, Brock, we're getting a divorce. Like, I can't do this anymore. We're not good together. Because I never would say to him, like, I would never use the words like abuse, right? Mm-hmm. I was trying to make it in a softer way, because if I use those terms, it would make him more angry. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, we're not good together. This is not working. I don't want to live like this. God doesn't want this for us. God doesn't want this for Alec and Lydia. And he was like, okay, well, then you need to come to the house and get the kids, because I'm going to kill myself. That's what he told me. And I don't even think I responded. I hung up the phone immediately and called 911.
Okay.
And I talked to the dispatcher, and I remember her saying, do you think you can go back inside and get the kids? And I said, I don't feel safe, because he had firearms. He had the capability of doing what he said he was going to do. Mm-hmm. And it passed through my head, if I was to walk back into that house, what would stop him from killing me?
Right.
And so that was a real fear. So I was like, no, I can't go back inside. At this time, he had walked out of the house, and he is walking towards me down the road in our neighborhood. I'm standing on the sidewalk, and he's walking towards me from our house.
He didn't have the kids with him or anything, though? Just him?
Just him. And he's walking towards me, and I'm telling her this on the phone. He's coming towards me. He's not, he's upset. And he got to me, and he asked me for the phone, and I gave it to him. But in the dispatch notes, obviously, she could tell that he was coercing me to give him the phone. Then he, in the dispatch notes, states, no, it's Hope. So this is Darvo. No, it's Hope. Hope hasn't been taking her medications for depression, because I was on the lowest dose of depression medication because of my parents passing, obviously.
Right.
And never on medication before, no history of depression. It was this event that made me go into a depression, right? Obviously, losing your parents back to back.
Yes.
That's normal.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with taking medication for depression.
No.
Absolutely not.
But he's trying to switch it on me and tell the dispatcher, no, she's the one that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about her hurting herself. So he's telling, so this is in dispatch notes. He's telling the dispatcher this. So he's using that Darvo tactic in real time to flip the script and make me as the one that needs help, the one that is struggling, the one that, is abusive. And so obviously they know. And so in the dispatch notes, she writes that she believes that he grabbed the phone from me, even though I told her that I gave it to him, which is the truth. But obviously, in that moment, I'm not going to be like, "Oh yeah, he took the phone from me." Like,
right, exactly,
right. But she knew, and then the police came and they talked to us. They had to separate us because he was trying to talk over me.
of course he was.
So he was trying to talk over me. They separated us. He went with a separate police officer, and then I went with the police officer to talk to him. And because he did have suicidal threats, and he did confirm those to the police officers, they had to do their due diligence and take him to the local hospital for just evaluation.
Did they do like a 72-hour
Nope.
hold or anything
It
like
was
that?
just an initial evaluation. He got out in probably about an hour to 2 hours. He was out of there. And so when the ambulance came and picked him up, because they actually took him via ambulance, and picked him up, took him to the hospital, that police officer that stayed with me told me to pack bags, told me to take the kids to a hotel. I was calling my sister and my aunt. They had no idea. I remember specifically telling my sister and my aunt, "This is what's happening. I'm divorcing Brock. He's been abusive. This is what's happened." They were like, "What? Like, slow down. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, they had no idea.
Yeah.
No
Kept it hidden.
clue. I had to have the police officer talk to them about what had transpired, what the next steps were, because obviously, like, I couldn't do that at that point. So the police officer took the phone and was talking to my sister and told her what I was going to do that day and why. The why. Because I even remember asking the police officer, "Well, why do I have to leave? Like, why do I have to leave my house?" And he told me, "Well, we're concerned if he came back." And he was alluding at that he could potentially kill us. That's what he was alluding at. And so the police officers even saw the danger in that. And I didn't see it fully at the time.
Well, you were brainwashed for so long.
Yeah. I still to this day, I question if some of this stuff even happened or even was my fault, and that's how deep this is over
It's
so many
definitely
years.
not your fault in any way.
No, and I know that, but those dark thoughts come in,
Of course they do.
Yeah. And so we separated. That was October 9th, 2023.
Okay.
And then we went to a hotel. I let the kids talk to Brock on the phone and FaceTime, but I wouldn't let him know where we were, and I didn't let them see him because I was scared. And then on October 16th, I took the kids back to school. That week from the 9th to the 16th was fall break, so they didn't have school during that time. So we just stayed at the hotel and hung out. And then my sister actually invited me to come back to Michigan to stay with her and her family for just a weekend, a short weekend. Her daughter, the kids' cousin, had a cheerleading game, a football game to cheer at. And there was a couple other things. And my sister was like, "Just come back to Michigan for a couple of days, see us, get out of Arizona." And so I confirmed with my attorneys, I confirmed with the courts to make sure it was okay to even take the children out of the state. And they said, "Yes, it's okay as long as you come back," right?
Right.
And so I did, and we took them. The kids had a blast with their cousins. I have memories of Lydia rolling down a hill full of leaves because they were Arizona kids. There's no leaves or grass in Arizona.
Yeah.
So she literally was rolling in this pile of leaves down this grassy hill for like a half hour.
Oh.
And we literally had to be
living it up.
"Okay, Lydia, we got to go to dinner." And she's like, "No, I'm going to stay." I'm like, "It's dark. We got to go."
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of memories there. Like I said, we went to the football game where my niece cheered and for her sideline cheerleading, and Alec and Lydia really liked that, to see her cheer in the football game and all of the excitement there. And they went to a trampoline park with their cousins. And just a lot of fun and a lot of memories. And after we got back, they kept asking, "Can we go back and see our cousins? Can we go back?" All the time.
Yeah.
And so we got back, and on the 16th of October, 2023, I took them to school, And then everything was fine. I went with a friend. She actually helped me take them to school because I didn't want to go by myself because of what happened. I didn't know if he was ever going to come and find me, or the victims advocates at the police station in the courthouse when I did get an order of protection. So when I was filing the order of protection, they said, make sure you're never alone. And so I always made sure that I had my friends were with me. And so the order of protection was served when I was in Michigan. And so he had to vacate the house. And so he went and stayed at a hotel because I had full control over the house for the protection order, because that was the kids' home.
Okay.
And so my friend helped me take the kids to school. And we had to go back to the courthouse to fill out some more paperwork. And so we did that. And then I started getting weird phone calls from Brock later that morning. And he was talking about, didn't sound like himself. His pattern of speech was very labored, meaning like he had a lot of pauses in between his speech. It was very difficult for him to construct a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't sound like himself.
Now, he's not even supposed to be calling you, though, either,
No.
right?
He's not supposed to be calling me because of the protection order.
Okay.
So 1, he broke the protection order because he called me. 2, he wasn't sounding like himself. And then what he was speaking about was about demons and cults and all this stuff, this biblical ideology that we didn't believe in. And so he was saying demons are after him, and he believes that our church is the church of Satan, and all this stuff that it was like hearing from a whole different person.
And this was all new, something new
all
that
new.
he's doing. Okay.
All new. He'd never had any of this stuff before. That scared me because I was like, this is like hearing from a completely different person.
Mm-hmm.
His speech didn't sound the same. His voice didn't sound the same. Then he's talking about things ideologies that we didn't believe in. So I called my attorney and I was like, he is calling me. He's breaking the protection order. What should I do? And he said, well, you should call the police and let them know. Call the non-emergency line. And I was like, well, we're right across the street from the police department. Can I just go in there? And he's like, yeah, if you're right across the street from it, because we were at the courthouse. So we were right across the street. So we went to the police department, and it took a while, but I finally was able to talk with the police officer. And right before this police officer came out, I had a gut feeling that I needed to call the school and check on the kids. And mind you, I never done that before. I never had a gut feeling that they were unsafe. This is not something that I typically did. This is I never call in the middle of the day and just ask how they're doing.
Right.
I'm a teacher. That's a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
So I called. And I remember talking to the secretary and asking, hi, this is Hope. I was just checking on Alec and Lydia and seeing how they're doing. She's like, oh, well, Brock actually just checked them out of school. And I was like, what do you mean he checked them out of school? Mind you, it's a Monday, and in our school district on Mondays, we had a half day anyways. So they were supposed to be out in the next 2 hours anyways because it was a half day. And so then he checked them out. And then I was really, really concerned. So when the police officer came out, it was kind of more about okay, this is the situation. My estranged husband is not only calling me and leaving disturbing voicemails, he is now gone to the school and taken the kids out of school. And I don't know where they are at this point because he's not answering phone calls. He's not answering text messages. It took him about an hour and 15 minutes to get back with me.
Oh my gosh.
So in that hour and 15 minutes, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And mind you, I'm worried, but the fear of him hurting them, physically, has never crossed my mind because he never physically hurt them in the past, right? So yes, they're in danger because he's not there mentally, but I never thought that thought never passed my mind up until this point.
Yeah, he's not going to hurt the kids.
No,
yeah,
no, because all of the abuse up until that point was geared to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yes, he would physically hurt me, but he never physically hurt. Besides, normal parenting, never hurt the children.
Was the protection order for the kids too?
No. So I was told, and this is bad information, but I was told by the courts that I couldn't put the kids on the protection order because it was a family court case and it was a civil matter because it's in family court. And I was like, well, we haven't filed yet. Like, we're literally, as I'm doing the protection order, my attorney is getting the paperwork around to file. Like, all of this is transpiring within a week. And they're like, we can't put them on. Like, you can ask the judge, which I did. I asked him when I was in there. I was like, can you put Alec and Lydia on the protection order? And I think why they didn't do it was because there were no previous examples of abuse, physical abuse towards the children. And so when you do an order of protection, you have to actually write out examples of abuse that you've gone through, which is also traumatizing because you have to write out in great detail of what this person did to you, right? Why are you wanting the protection order, and what examples are you going to give to support that? And so, and those examples were extreme and very difficult for me to write. I actually had somebody transcribe for me. I verbally told, and she was right. She typed. And none of the examples included Alec and Lydia as far as physical abuse. So the courts didn't do anything. Or the judge, it wasn't the court, sorry. The judge, the Superior Court judge that granted the order, didn't put them on. And at the time I was like, okay, that's fine, because again, he's not showing physical abuse towards them, only me. And so I talked to the police officer, and he said, right as I'm talking to him, Brock actually called me and said, I'm sorry, the kids are at a hotel. I could hear him swimming in the background, and he actually wasn't supposed to talk to me on the phone because of the protection order. So he hung up and he said via text message, I'm going to have Alec call you. So he had Alec call me. I talked to Alec. Alec seemed fine. He was happy. He was swimming. I could hear Lydia swimming and playing and, giggling in the background. And because I talked to them and because I heard that they were okay, I told the police officers, I was like, can you go and check on them? Like, they're at this hotel. Can you go and just make sure they're okay? And he's like, well, I can't do that because he has guardianship over them because he's their guardian. He's their father. And there's no court record stating that he doesn't have the capability of taking care of them. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, I'm going to write up the report that he did break the order of protection, but I'm also going to let you know that you just need to text him and come up with a plan for the next day, which would have been Tuesday, the 17th of October, to take them back to school. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And so we went back home, I went back home. My friend took me back home, and I texted him. We came up with a plan for him to take the kids to school the next day. He was going to take them to school. He was going to pick Alec up the next day from school and take him to Trail Life, which is like Boy Scouts, but it's more Christian based. And I was like, okay, he had this biblical ideology, but he was also, at that point that I was texting him and stuff, he seemed okay. So it was very conflicting. And the police were telling me that I couldn't do anything. So my hands were tied. Like, what am I supposed to do? Then I went to bed, and I got woken up close to midnight. And the surprise police department said, is this Hope? And I said, yes. And they're like, this is police officer, I can't remember his name, such and such. We need you to come to this hotel. Gave me the address because Brock called 911 on himself. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he was having homicidal, suicidal ideation. So not just suicidal ideation, now it's homicidal ideation. And he's speaking of demons and cults. And he believes that your church is the Church of Satan. And we had a long conversation with him, and our police officers are taking him via police car to a local psychiatric facility voluntarily via police car. And so I was like, okay, I'll be right there. So I had to get an Uber. I don't drive. I had to get an Uber, get the car seats or booster seats, get them in the Uber, have the Uber drive me. I got there. Brock wasn't there. The kids were sleeping, so they didn't see or hear, as far as I know, anything that transpired, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked the police officer, and he said that, yes, he was having suicidal and homicidal ideation and all of the things that I just told you. And it didn't click in my head. I honestly can tell you that I didn't even know what the word ideation meant.
Right.
Like, I was like,
why would you?
Ideation.
Yeah.
Like, what is ideate? I called my attorney the next day and told him everything that transpired. And we got an emergency order of emergency temporary orders put in place that stated that I would have full custody of the kids, physical, and like all of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember asking him, like, this is what they said, but like, what's ideation? Like, I had no idea. I was like, what is ideation? And he's like, that means he had thoughts of doing that. And I was like, okay.
Now, that didn't warrant an automatic 72-hour or anything like that?
He was in the psychiatric hold.
Okay, good.
He went to that psychiatric facility via police car.
Okay.
So he went there, and during this time, that's what my attorney and I are thinking. That's what my family is thinking. Like, okay, he's going to be in a 72-hour hold, and then they'll release him. Because again, it's not clicking in my head that this is as serious as it actually is. Like, I was like, okay, they're just going to, the same thing that happened the first time, they're going to put him in there, and then he's going to be like, oh, I'm fine. And they're going to release him.
They're really good at that.
And that's not what happened. He was in there for 9 days. And so in the emergency temporary orders, you actually have to go in front of the judge within 10 days. And so we had to push that out because he wasn't out of the facility within 10 days.
Okay.
So we actually had to push it out and be like, given the situation, he's still in this facility. We can't go in front of you because he's in a hospital.
He has to be there too.
He has to be there too.
Okay.
Because in the emergency temporary orders, we have to go in front of the judge and we have to say, okay, this is what transpired. This is why I want supervised visits to continue. Because in the emergency temporary orders, it said I had full custody, but it gave him 4 hours of supervised visits. So we wanted that to continue. So that's why they have it after, usually it's within 10 days. And then you have to be seen by a judge. But like I said, it had to be pushed out. And that's what really started after this happened. On day 5, I was like, he's still not out. Like, then it started to sink in like, okay, something is really wrong. And mind you, I don't have access to records. I can't talk to him because he's not giving me permission. And via HIPAA, I can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have no access to any records, I can't talk to doctors. I'm not talking to him. I have no idea what's going on in that facility.
Yeah.
And so when we go to emergency temporary orders after he's released after 9 days, he is virtual via the computer because he went to stay with family out of state. And so he is out of state, went to stay with family. So he's virtual. I'm in the courtroom in person. And I got up on the bench and I said, this is what transpired. Brock went and, was talking about suicidal and homicidal ideation. He was talking about demons and cults. He was just put in a psychiatric facility. He had previous domestic violence history. I have an order of protection. And we thought we had a good case. Obviously, everything I'm telling you, I told to the judge. It was in our court filings that we have to fill out. We explained everything. We didn't have information and stuff to back it up yet because police reports take time. Mm-hmm. Psychiatric notes take time. All of this stuff takes time. So we don't have that evidence to give, but we have verbal confirmation that all of these things transpired.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came in and he was like, yes, I was in a psychiatric facility. Yes, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but I'm on psychiatric medication now. And I called for help and I got the help. Mind you, like I said, I have no idea what actually transpired in that psychiatric facility at this time because I wasn't privy to that information because of HIPAA.
But regardless, it still takes like months for that to really work if he's on meds.
Yes. And so I was like, we answered all the questions. He was cross-examined. The one thing that really stood out to me was my attorney cross-examined and stated, Brock, do you believe that you put Alec and Lydia in danger that night? And he stated on the record, no, I don't believe I put them in danger because they were asleep. Well, if your house is on fire and you're asleep, it still doesn't mean you're still in danger.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so he stated that statement right in front of the judge from his own mouth. And I was like, okay, that's really damaging as well. And we felt really good coming out of that temporary orders hearing that they were going to keep the temporary orders as is. But
at least temporarily.
At least temporarily. That's why it's temporary orders.
Yes.
The judge took 48 hours and came back. And because they don't deliberate on the bench, they send like a report, an order back to our attorneys. And it states that that is not what's going to happen, that Brock will get 50-50 unsupervised custody because that's what Brock wanted. And Brock stated that, yes, he had bipolar, but he was better now and he got help and all the things, right, that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but he knows.
But
he's a manipulator.
Yes. And the judge was like, it's fine. It was his first time. But statistically, in research, the first time is the most severe. Because after that, it's just going to get more severe and severe and severe.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're on meds, you're going to relapse with bipolar. That's just what happens. Even just regular bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
And we continue on. In our orders, we asked for a psychological evaluation to be done, separate from the facility. And it was granted. And that was done several months later, probably about 4 months later from November. So it was done in like March of 2024. And in that report, it has red flags and lethality markers. It's not a full psych evaluation that was completed. Usually psych evaluations get pulled apart. Mm-hmm. And it didn't get pulled apart. I can say now that, I believe that this was a whole systemic failure. If you're like, who failed you and your children, Hope? It wasn't one person. The whole system failed. My attorney failed. His attorney failed to do their job. The psychologist failed to do their job. The judge and the courts failed to do their job. And so everybody failed. There were so many people involved and so many people that could have stopped and said, that's not right. Mm-hmm. We need to relook at that. And nobody did. And I didn't know better because I'm supposed to be trusting the people that know what they're doing, that do this on a daily basis, that are supposed to protect families. And unfortunately, that's not how our system works. He got the psychological evaluation done. We had a hearing on April 4th, 2024. And the judge states on the record that he thinks that this is a well put together report. He doesn't see any problems. There are no issues. And he is going to continue Brock with unsupervised 50-50 custody. And at this point, I'm done. I'm hopeless because it's like nobody's listening.
Yeah.
And then I start to believe, okay, maybe he is better because we're co-parenting and he's sending home permission slips and he's communicating as far as the kids are involved. And so I'm starting to believe, okay, maybe he's okay. But that's not the reality.
Was he calling you and saying anything crazy during that time or acting out at all?
No. He would text me. And every time he texted me when it didn't relate to the kids, say he would text me, is there any way that we could get back together? I don't think that this is right. I think that we should work on this. I would send all of those text messages to my attorney, and my attorney would contact his attorney and tell him to stop. But unfortunately, my attorney should have told me, you should be filing with the police every time this happens. My attorney didn't tell me that. I didn't know. Again, that's another failure, right? On April 4th, 2024, he was granted continuing unsupervised 50-50 custody. And everything was good. On May 17th, I sent the kids to school, dropped them off before and after school care, said goodbye to them. Alec ran and saw his friends. He didn't give me a hug and a kiss that time, but I was like, that's okay. I'm going to see him in a couple days. Lydia would always put her backpack down and then run full force and give me a hug. So I call her hugs a running hug. So literally she would fly into me and literally like topple me over. I like have to like stand.
Yeah.
She gave me a hug and a kiss and said, bye, mommy. See you soon. And that's the last time I saw them alive. On Saturday, May 18th, everything was fine, as far as I know. On Sunday, May 19th, they went to church that morning with Brock. We know that from pastors and other people at the church, seeing that they saw the kids running up and down the hallway, playing in service, participating in children's service like normal. Nothing was wrong. There were no red flags as far as the kids. No behavior was amiss. It was just normal. And then I don't know what happened, but Sunday, May 19th at night, from what police investigation can tell us, people at the apartment complex between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m. heard what sounded like fireworks. And they came outside on their balconies and heard it, and then it stopped. So they went back inside. They didn't do anything. And now we know that those fireworks were gunshots. And so the next day, well, actually, I'll backtrack. That night on Sunday, May 19th, I went to sleep early because I was tired, and I slept, and I had what I call an inception dream. And I call it the inception dream because it's a dream that one dream melds into another and melds into another. And it is very vivid. And I've had this dream almost 2 years ago. Next month on the 19th, it's been 23 months. And I can remember this dream like it was yesterday. In the first part of the sequence of the dream, I was with my sister and we were younger and we were playing in the snow. But I remember thinking to myself, why are we here? It's super hot and I'm in Arizona, and why is there snow? And we were playing, and then the second dream melded. They didn't stop. It was like one went into the next. The second dream was me and my Bible study group at my house, and we were doing Bible study, and something happened, and they ruined my furniture. But instead of telling me that they ruined my furniture, they were removing my furniture from my house. And I remember frantically yelling at them, saying, no, it's okay, I'll fix it. I'll get it cleaned, I'll fix it, like it's brand new, it's fine, like leave it. Like I was in frantics because I literally just brought this furniture. It was brand new, and like I was telling them, don't remove it from my house, keep it here, I'll clean it. The third dream, and this is the one that I know right away, was from the kids. And I can tell you about the other two that I had interpreted. But the last dream was me, and I woke up and I sat up in a bed, and I was in a hotel room, what looked like a hotel room. There was a queen bed sitting next to me, and then I was in a queen bed. Next to me over here was a chair, and Lydia was sitting in that chair, and she was kicking her feet back and forth. And I remember thinking in my head, all of this is telepathically, by the way, now that I come to realize. I remember thinking in my head, well, that's strange. They're supposed to be with him right now. They're not with me. And Alec wasn't there. It was just Lydia. And I remember saying to Lydia, Lydia, it's bedtime. You got to go to bed. You got to get in bed. So she got up. She walked over to the next bed over. I got up. I put her in bed, tucked her in, and I kissed her. I said, okay, Lydia, it's time to go to bed. And I woke up, and it was 10:15 p.m. And like I said, from what investigators can tell us, gunshots were heard between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m. So I believe that Lydia came to me that night, unbeknownst to me, before she went to heaven. I didn't know anything was wrong. No idea. So I had this dream, this vision, and no idea anything was wrong. I do remember waking up and my heart was pounding out of my chest. I haven't been so scared in my life from a dream. It was so intense and so real. And I remember going back to sleep. I remember waking up the next morning, and I was so excited I was going to see Alec and Lydia on Wednesday. He had them on Mondays and Tuesdays. So he had them Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday that week. I was going to see them on Wednesday. I remember I took the dog outside. She went to the bathroom. I came back inside. I was doing laundry. My phone rang. It was 10:16 a.m. The school had called me and said, I just wanted to let you know, Hope, that Alec and Lydia have an unexcused absence. And we wanted to let you know as well that we checked DENS Club, which is the before and after school care, to make sure that they didn't come this morning. And they were not there as well. So they are not in school today. And I was like, okay, I will call him and see what's going on. Nothing concerning came to my head. No alarm bells at first. I thought it was strange that they weren't in school because it was the last week of school before summer break. They had 4 days left. That week was supposed to be the week that Lydia graduated from kindergarten. And Alec had his second grade reading award. But I wasn't scared yet. I called him, no answer. I texted, no answer. I called my attorney. My attorney said, it's okay. Maybe they went to the doctors. Maybe he didn't really have an answer, but we weren't worried yet. And he was like, wait a couple of hours and then call for a wellness check. I said, okay. I think he said wait 3 hours. I didn't wait 3 hours. I waited 45 minutes and I went over there and I knocked on the door and there was no answer. I called and I could hear the phone ringing from inside. And I saw his van in the parking lot. So then I started worrying. Then I was like, okay, something is wrong. His van is in the parking lot. He's supposed to be at work. The kids are supposed to be at school. And I can hear his phone ringing from inside. I called and the dispatcher asked me a bunch of questions. I said, yes, he has mental illness. He had a psychiatric break in October. He has 50-50 custody, but the kids aren't in school. And I got an unexcused absence from the school. And this is not normal. And I'm concerned. And I can hear the phone ringing from inside. And the police came and I talked to them and they said, well, could they go for a walk? Could have they gone to the pool? And I was like, guys, it's the middle of the day on a Monday. He's supposed to be at school or at work and they're supposed to be at school. The other thing that happened was in Arizona, the weather is usually blue skies and sunny. It was not pouring that day, but it was cloudy and it was drizzling, raining. And that was very strange. I'll remember that. And I talked to them. And at first, the police officers were like, well, we really can't do anything because it's not your day. And they're like, well, when are you going to see them next? And I said, Wednesday. I said, but this is really not normal, guys. Like, I was trying to convey that it wasn't normal. This is not okay. Something is wrong. So they started calling him, could hear the phone ringing from inside. They were knocking on the doors. They were knocking on every window that they could. No answer. Then a police officer came. Mind you, there's multiple police officers in this parking lot. It's an apartment complex. There's people now standing on their balconies. There's people trying to get in and out of the parking lot that can't to get to their homes. This police officer came up to me and he said, "Hi, Hope, do you remember me?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "You're the police officer from the event in October." He said, "Yes." He said, "I'm going to talk to our sergeant because this is not a normal situation. And the situation in October wasn't normal. And I want to go see if we can go inside for everybody's safety. Are you okay with that?" I said, "Yes, I'm okay with that. Yes, please do that." So they got the go-ahead. We stayed in the parking lot. I was with my friend. And at this time, my 2 pastors came. They were with us in the parking lot. Mind you, we had no idea what was transpiring. Even for my pastors to come on that specific day, obviously God sent them. I didn't even call them. My friend called them. But the fact that they even showed up, so we were all in the parking lot. They went inside. They had the maintenance man unlock the door. They went inside. They called. I saw the body cam footage that was just released on an interview that we just got. They announced themselves. I think the hardest thing for me on the body cam footage that they played, I haven't seen it all because I don't want to, but the stuff that they played in the interview, they call Lydia and Alec's name. And Lydia and Alec don't come to the door. And they go inside and they find all of them deceased. With Alec and Lydia with gunshot wounds to the head. And he has a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. They came outside, and I remember 2 police officers coming towards me, and they said, "Hope, we're sorry to inform you, but all 3 are deceased inside." And I remember freezing, and I remember stepping forward and saying no, and then sitting back down on the curb. And I remember putting my head down in my lap. And before that, I knew that something was wrong. I was calling my sister. I called my brother-in-law before they went inside or as they were going inside. And I remember talking to my brother-in-law and saying, "I'm at his apartment. Something is wrong. I think he hurt the kids," but I didn't use the word murdered or killed. I couldn't make myself say those words. And we didn't know, 5 minutes before what had transpired. It was so hard for my brother-in-law. He was like, "What do you mean they're hurt? Are they at the hospital? What do you," he was trying to get stuff out of me. And I was like, "I don't know. Something's wrong." And I was like, "I'll call you back or text you and let you know." So when they told me, I put my head down in my lap. And I remember texting my sister 3 fragmented text messages. And I don't text like that. The text said, "They are gone. He took them. They are all dead." Then she started calling. I couldn't talk to her, so my pastor was talking to everyone. My pastor talked to my family, talked to my friends. I didn't talk to anybody. They told us to go to the police station. Mind you, I've been around people. I've had a lot of trauma and a lot of death in my life. And I've been around that, but I've never been around a crime. So they had us go to the police station. We went into this big boardroom with a huge table with multiple chairs and multiple windows. I remember that. And I sat there, and the police sergeant came in and said his condolences. The priest that they hire, the clergyman that they hire, came in and sat with me. I had the 2 victims advocates there, my pastors, my friends. And I just sat there. It wasn't real. I remember going back home after they released us, and I was so scared to go inside. My friend had to go inside of my house before me and close Alec and Lydia's bedroom doors because I couldn't go and close their doors. For the next week, next 4 days, my sister and my aunt came out and flew out that next morning and was with me. My pastors were with me. My church family was with me. I wasn't left alone. They brought food. They brought, everything. It was the hardest thing to have to decide if you're going to bury your 6 and 7-year-old or if you're going to cremate them. And I decided to cremate them because I didn't want them to be buried in the desert if I was going to move, because I knew that I couldn't stay in Arizona. And that wasn't even a choice. My sister, I remember I was sitting at the kitchen counter and she was standing across from me. And she said, I'm not leaving here unless you were on the plane with me going back to Michigan. And I said, okay. I didn't have a choice. She wasn't going to leave me. And I didn't want to be there. And so over the next 4 days, we packed up, we donated, we sold, we took his vehicle that had my name also attached to it back to the dealership and sold it back to the dealership. We transferred all the things that I could back into my name, everything that I could. God was with me the whole time. And I know that because of my faith. I know that because of the dream. I know that because that week, there's no way that somebody could pack up and donate and move all of their stuff from one state to another. There's no way in 4 days. There's 2 things that stand out to me. The first one is we sold the van back to the dealership. The gentleman that sold us the van was the husband of a teacher that I used to work with. We called him, told him what happened. He was in shock, obviously. It was all over the news. And he said, bring in the van with the keys and we'll do everything else. I said, I don't need a title. I don't need a, nope, you don't need anything. Just bring the van, the key, I'll figure it out. And he did. We sold the van back in 2 hours. The next thing was we were walking through a grocery store and I remember trying to figure out if we're going to bury them or cremate them. And I decided to cremate them. And the company that we went with called my pastor. She was handling all of this stuff. I wasn't really talking to them. They found out on the news what happened. And they said, we're not only going to cover Alec and Lydia's cremation, but we will cover Brock's cremation. Because we feel like it's not your responsibility to do it. Because at that point, I didn't know what I was going to do with him. And then I did the right thing. We cremated him and we sent him to his family. And then I cremated the kiddos and got them urns. And Alec's urn is a wooden box with trees and mountains and trails for trail life. And Lydia's is purple with sparkles. And it sucks that I have my children cremated. But I know that God is with me throughout everything. Since their passing, I moved back to Michigan, near my sister and her family. Lived with them for 2.5 months. Decided to get my own place to live. Moved in on Alec's birthday, 2024. July 15th, 2024. I am currently changing laws in Arizona. It's called the Alec and Lydia Act. It is a bill that will protect families, victims, and children that go through what I've gone through. That make sure that if domestic violence, coercive control are factors in a court case, that the judge has to look at those factors thoroughly. And they will not grant unsupervised custody to a parent that has a prior history that can be proven of domestic violence or coercive control. They will also look at mental illness as a part of that. The Alec and Lydia Act has passed the House 52-0 unanimously.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It has passed the Senate Committee on Federalism and Family Court 4-3. And now it will go to the Senate floor, and it will hopefully pass, and it will be signed hopefully by Governor Katie Hobbs so that I can protect children. I can't get Alec and Lydia back, but I can make sure that this stops happening. And I know that it continues to happen in our country every single day. On average, there are 3 children that die of filicide, the murdering of a child by a parent or a caregiver, every single day in our country.
Every day.
There was just an incident
Wow.
Saturday.
Oh, God.
This needs to be heard. This needs to be talked about. And so that is what I choose to do now. I'm still grieving. I still struggle. I still am in counseling, and my prayer team and my new church are very close to me. I couldn't do that without them. Couldn't do it without my family, my sister, Brandy, brother-in-law, Kurt, and my niece, and my 2 nephews. There's no way. But through this, I've turned my pain into purpose. And
Sure have.
I'm so happy that I'm making change with this legislation in Arizona, and I hope to, in the future, be able to make this a part of law if it's not already in legislation. It is already in legislation in 10 other states, but there's several other states that don't have it. So I hope to move it to those states that don't. And the next hurdle is Michigan, because I live there, and they don't have it. And then now I have a podcast because we need to spread awareness. We need to educate. We need to tell the stories of these children, of what happened to them, but also how they lived. So I have Voices Against Filicide podcast.
Okay.
And I sit down with parents who've gone through the same thing I have. I tell stories of children who have been lost to filicide at the hands of their parent. And I sit down with experts, legislators, domestic violence coalitions. I sit down with people within the coercive control world. And so we educate and we make sure that we try to move the needle forward, right? If I can save one child, I've done my job. I want to save as many as I can.
Right.
But if I can save at least one, that's my purpose on this earth. That's my stuff, what I've been doing. I've also published a book. There's Still Hope.
Oh, yeah. Let's see it. Right here.
Yeah, right here.
And we'll make sure we put all those links in there, too.
Yeah. There's Still Hope, a journey of adversity, tragedy, and unshakable faith. Wow. So obviously, I couldn't cover everything in today's interview. But if you want to know more about my story, more about where I came from, all of the things that have helped me move through everything in my life, not just Alec and Lydia's murder, but everything, the book is a good start. And I wrote the book, and it is real and raw and hard to read, but it's important. And
It's
I
the
hope
truth.
I hope that it will help somebody else going through a hard time, whether that's the loss of a child or grief or whatever it might be. There's so many different things in that book that I cover that could help someone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everything will be available in the links. And so I really appreciate you having me on and letting me share my story. And
Hope, you're crushing me. I hate so much that this is part of your story.
Yeah.
Like, I truly do. Like, I just don't really have any words. It's the absolute worst nightmare.
Yeah. It's the worst
of any parent, like, that you could ever possibly imagine. Just the worst. It's the worst.
Yeah. It's the worst thing that somebody can go through, in their life, is losing a child. But losing a child and children in this manner,
yes,
for somebody that's supposed to care for them and love them, especially because these warning signs and lethality risks are so prevalent. My case, like I said, is not the only one. We need to make sure that people are educated about
Yes.
these lethality risks.
Yes.
People, when they say that they're suicidal, when they say that they're homicidal, when they have previous history of domestic violence,
Like, freaking believe it.
believe them. They're not
Yes.
just saying it. It's not for attention. Before this, he never had suicidal or homicidal tendencies. And yes, he was abusive, but he never said those things.
Right.
Believe them. Listen. Courts need to listen. Friends need to listen. Families need to listen.
It's horrific that this slipped through so many hands that didn't take it more serious, that didn't just even stop to really think about it and what the outcome could be.
Yeah. And the sad part is the judge and the attorneys met the day after Alec and Lydia Brock passed. And on recording, it says that the judge states, "Our worst fears were realized." Okay. You had warnings, dude. Like, you could have stopped this. Our attorneys could have stopped this.
Yeah.
So it's a whole systemic failure.
They all get to go home to their kids.
Yes. Everybody
Hopefully,
asks me, is the judge still on the bench? Yes. Yes. Judges have 100% immunity. There's nothing that I can do to the judge. But I say his name, Judge Michael Valenzuela. I say what happened to me. I talk about my case because even though he is still on the bench, I can still talk about what happened to me. And
absolutely.
if somebody else has them, they can hear this story and be like, okay, this is the judge I have. I hope that now, since this happened, he is making wiser decisions and looking at evidence.
Did he ever own his mistake?
No. And unfortunately, the judicial system in Arizona is protecting him. They made a statement to Phoenix Fox 10 when I did their interview that basically said that Brock was supposed to tell me when he was taking his medications. Like, I was supposed to monitor those, and there was no filings since April 2024, so they couldn't grant anything else besides unsupervised. That's taking the blame off of them, putting it back on the victim.
Right.
Which is not okay.
It's not.
And they said that out in front of the whole public in Arizona and across the country. And there's a lot of people that are not happy with how they're handling this. But that's why I can't do anything about how they currently run the family court system. But I hopefully can pass this law and change it for the future.
Yes. You're my hero. Thank you, Hope. Thank you for coming on and sharing all this. My God. I don't have any words.
And that's okay. That's okay. Everybody, I think that was the most healing thing that people said when I was grieving at the beginning was people would come up to me, and I loved the people that said, "I'm so sorry. I just want to hug you right now. And I don't have any words." And I said, "Give me a hug. Like, that's fine. I'd rather have somebody say, I don't know what to say, rather than all the people that have all the random platitudes that make me feel worse, right? Of, oh, you're so young, you can get remarried again. Oh, you could have children again. Oh,
Girl, those dumb statements from people. It's like, just please, it's so much better just not to say anything. Yes. Yes.
But people do say that. And it's like, yeah, I could get married again. I could possibly have children again. But that's not what I want to hear right now.
It's the last thing I'm thinking about at this moment.
So, yeah.
Well, now I know I can come give you a hug.